Alexander Usyk's 2018 was one of the single most impressive years of a boxer in recent memory. He was active, he was dominant, he defeated a high level of opposition. But just imagine if we had no footage of that year, and next to nothing of the opponents he defeated. Well, it would certainly leave us a little bit in the fog in terms of just what he achieved during those 12 months. But that is exactly the situation we find ourselves in when we rewind a century and we look back at Jack Dempsey's incredible 1918. Similar to Sonny Liston, the Manassa Mauler did a lot of his best work pre-championship. But different to Liston, absolutely none of it survives on film. So many of those great performances forever relegated to select newspapers. Our ability to try and further understand that style as to why those who saw it live thought it was so electric is greatly impaired. Hooking up with manager Jack Kearns the year prior, 1918 was really the year where Dempsey became Dempsey, where he was eating properly, training consistently, refining that style which would smash its way into title contention. He really did leave a trail of destruction over these 12 months, a feat which I feel is just more forgotten than it is overlooked. So I'm going to be picking out here specific things as to why this was such a special year in the life of a great heavyweight. Now, of the 17 stoppages Dempsey registered this year, 12 of them came in the first round. His style was all about blitzing you. Wham bam, thank you ma'am, grab the check, get the next train out of here. It was a style founded in being hungry, energy levels not being so great, needing to end things early. Some may look back and say, well, hang on a minute, there was no neutral corner rule. It was easier to get your opponent out there. But this is a luxury every other fighter enjoyed at the time. Dempsey was taking people out, and he was turning heads. And of those 12 first round knockouts, the most significant of the bunch, probably the win of 1918 for Dempsey, would have to be that super quick dispatch of Big Fred Fulton. Fulton was a tall, rangy guy, apparently got the better of Jess Willard in sparring. Pretty good win over an older Sam Langford, could really crack with both hands. Dempsey gets him out of there in about 20 seconds. That's shave 10 seconds off Tyson's win over Marvis Frazier. Dempsey was actually quite dismissive of Fred Fulton in his autobiography, simply saying that the guy had a weak jaw. Doesn't change the fact though that in beating Fulton, it opened up the gates to Jess Willard. Perhaps a more emotionally gratifying victory for Dempsey was the first round revenge over fireman Jim Flynn. The man who apparently knocked the Mauler cold the year prior, at this bizarre outcome where he won in about 20 seconds, Dempsey is down and out. He blamed the lack of warming up, other people will insist that the fix was in. Either way, I don't think it reflects badly on Dempsey. All that really matters is that Dempsey returned the favour, and to make things a little bit sweeter, he sent Flynn out of the ring. Speed and technique certainly helps when it comes to ending fights early. The other component though is power. And what better proof of raw power than taking out opponents who usually stay on their feet? Though no great boxer, Bill Brennan was at least powerful and tough. Prior to fighting Dempsey in late February, Brennan has apparently never been off his feet as a professional. That is all quickly rectified. He goes down 4 times in the second, twice in the 6th, and is stopped shortly thereafter. Now, we do have footage of the 1920 title rematch, where Dempsey wasn't as sharp, wasn't as devastating, got hurt in the second round, and things dragged on a little sloppily until the 12th. Definitely not vintage Mauler. It would be a lot better if we had the 1918 original. It's fair to say by the time light heavyweight battling Levinsky bumped into Jack that he'd seen better days. Down about 25 times in a 200 plus fight career, he had apparently never taken a 10 count. Until the 3rd round, when a right hook to the chin put him down for keeps. Now, unlike other milestone years in the life of great boxers, there is a notch there in the losers bracket. A man Dempsey technically has a losing record to. the rotund, very awkward exhibition specialist, Willie Mahan. And so in September of 1918, they have their fifth and final encounter, a Navy fundraiser, which Dempsey technically walks away the loser. Though not after flooring Mahan in the second round, not after some people thought he actually took it easy on the wily old fatso, who did concede later in life that had these been bouts of a proper distance, he probably wouldn't have survived. And with this speed, aggression and power, Dempsey proved to be particularly effective against bigger targets. The 6'5" Fred Fulton and the more heavily set 6'4" Carl Morris were good early examples of the kind of guys who would go on to be known as super heavyweights. No doubt for your average size heavyweight of the day, to see one of these guys in the opposite corner must have been pretty daunting. For Jack Dempsey, it was playtime. In years gone by, light heavyweight Jack Dillon had accrued something of a reputation as a giant killer. But the manner in which Dempsey levelled the bigger boys, you could say really earned him that title. Athletically weaving underneath the bigger man's jab, Dempsey had a certain style that really exploited the gaps in a longer frame, dig into the body, and coming up top with devastating hooks. Not too short either at about 6'1", Dempsey wasn't the guy you could just simply drape yourself over and sap his energy. A very savvy inside fighter, certain reporters said he was able to lift the likes of Carl Morris off his feet with body shots. Perhaps a little bit of hyperbole there from reporters, whose words were all we had to go by to try and convey the action. Nonetheless, in just over half a year's time, we would get our first proper fight footage of the Mauler. And I think we can all agree, there's very little exaggerated about the job he did on Big Jess.